Hello, I'm Joey Haskins, and welcome back to You've Never Seen, in which I showcase a movie you've probably never seen before. And welcome to our final episode in the DCAU Retrospective. As I mentioned last week, Starcross was meant to be the last episode of the Justice League series, but Cartoon Network ordered a third and fourth season, requesting a major rebrand. No more two-part serials, only the standard one-episode half-hour format. This time, Dwayne McDuffie would write most of the episodes in the series and would be a primary producer with Tim and Company. Cartoon Network also wanted a bigger league with more characters. The in-story explanation behind this is that the remaining members of the league, that being Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, The Flash, and Martian Manhunter, decide to expand the league in case anything like the Thanagarian invasion happens again. There are many already established characters who return, like Dr. Fate, Steel, Zatanna, and especially Supergirl, but there's room for many newer characters to shine. Every cast member from the previous series comes back. Kevin Conroy, George Newbern, Susan Eisenberg, Phil Lamar, Michael Rosenbaum, and Carl Lumley all return as Bruce, Clark, Diana, John, Wally, and Jean. The episode format of the series is as such. A group of new leaguers are led by one of the original leaguers to deal with a problem of the week. However, this series would use several elements introduced in the previous series to create an overarching story across the whole show. The DCAU is now fully serialized, and Justice League Unlimited also has the best theme song of the series. I mean, come on, just listen to these sick beats. Awesome. In previous series, we covered the episodes that were significant, you should watch, or that I personally like. But I'm not going to do that this time around. Justice League Unlimited only has 39 episodes and they're all really good. So I will be covering every episode of Justice League Unlimited today. And I will be going into extreme detail in certain episodes, so spoilers ahead. Let's not waste any more time though and jump right into the first episode of Justice League Unlimited. Initiation is the perfect first episode. It goes over the basic format of the series and does so through the eyes of the League's newest member, making his DCAU debut, Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow. Ollie doesn't want to be a part of the League because he thinks it'll make him less humble. A small-time guy like him can't walk around gods like these and not be considered one of them.
Come on, I don't belong up here, fighting monsters and aliens and supervillains. I just helped the little guy, and a big club like this, you tend to forget all about him. So gee whiz, I'm flattered to be asked and all, but no thanks.
But while he's hitching a ride back to his home, he's brought on a mission with Jon Stewart, Supergirl, once again played by Nicole Tom, and Captain Atom, who has nuclear powers. Although he's not there on official business, he quickly gets involved when a giant robot goes rogue and injures Jon Stewart.
This wouldn't have happened if you'd acted like you were part of a team.
But I'm not, remember? So back off, nuke boy.
Hey! We've got a giant, out-of-control robot out there. But if you guys are too busy playing alpha male smackdown, I guess I'll just have to deal with it myself.
Shayara! You need a plan. You need to find its weakness.
Ollie manages to save the day and ends up joining the team when he sees Black Canary has also joined. This episode is a great introduction and establishes the series well. Ken Shriner, who plays Green Arrow, is awesome in the role, and the episode also builds up the friendship between Ollie and Kara as a kind of uncle-niece kind of bond.
Still don't think I belong up here.
That's the point. Someone like you will keep us honest.
For the Man Who Has Everything is an adaptation of an Alan Moore Superman story. On Clark's birthday, Batman and Wonder Woman visit Superman at the Fortress of Solitude, only to find him enslaved by an alien plant. It's given to him by Mongol, who's once again played by Eric Roberts. While Diana fights Mongol, Bruce tries to figure out how to take the plant off of Clark. But what's Clark doing? Well, the plant, called the Black Mercy, shows him his idyllic life, where he lives on a still-alive Krypton with a wife and child. And Clark is happy, but can tell something's wrong. When he's freed, the Black Mercy shows Krypton being destroyed as Clark says goodbye to his fake family. And then Clark goes ballistic on Mongol, placing the Black Mercy on him. Some birthday. Hawk and Dove sees Wonder Woman villain Ares use a machine called the Annihilator, which is fueled by rage to escalate a civil war in a foreign country. In order to stop it, Diana teams up with brothers Hank and Don Hall, known as Hawk and Dove. And in A Not Too Wonder Years, Hank and Don are played by Fred Savage and Jason Hervey, respectively.
There's gotta be a way to stop this war. If we could just get the two leaders to sit down together.
Oh, because that happens all the time in these situations. Unless you want to just kidnap them and make them talk.
I wish.
Then go for it. At least it'll buy me some time.
Why? What are you doing?
I've got to see a man about a suit of armor.
While everyone involved in the war, including Diana and Hank, is affected by the battles, only Dawn is able to calm everyone into stopping the Annihilator, which is taken by the League. Fearful Symmetry involves Supergirl having dreams about killing people, and those same people end up dead in real life. Concerned they're connected, Kara goes to Ollie and the League's resident conspiracy theorist, and one of my favorite DC heroes, the Question, for help. We'll be seeing a lot of the Question, who's played incredibly by Jeffrey Combs.
No one asked for more help. This whole trip might just prove the kid shouldn't eat nachos before bed.
Peanut butter sandwiches.
How did you... What, do you go through my trash?
Please. I go through everyone's trash.
Question reminds Supergirl that there's a gap in her memory from when she was treated by Dr. Hamilton at Star Labs back in the Superman finale. The three go to Hamilton, but he doesn't really provide any answers. They do discover that someone has taken her blood. How do they know this? Because they confront an aged-up Supergirl clone named Galatea. Kara and Galatea share a link since they're the same person, and she used that link to lure Supergirl there since the people she works for need to operate in secret. But Question also says it's because the link goes both ways, and Galatea can't stand having Kara's consciousness ringing through her brain.
You don't know what you're talking about.
No. Prove it. Kill me.
Before Supergirl can finish her off, the whole facility they're in is destroyed by a shadowy figure. Supergirl couldn't find Galatea's body because Dr. Hamilton has it. He was the one who cloned her and tended to the injured Galatea. Fearful Symmetry is the first of many episodes that discuss an organization that is looking to operate without the League and maybe even take them down, and it's a brilliant introduction. Nicole Tom also shines as she gives differences in her voice while playing both Kara and Galatea. Kid Stuff sees the return of Morgan Le Fay and her son Mordred, who's grown tired of her mother's failed attempts at making him king, so he takes matters into his own hands. Using a powerful amulet, he banishes all adults to a different dimension, letting him rule over all children on Earth. Clark, Bruce, Diana, and John are all stuck, but Le Fay offers them a loophole, turning them into kids. They try and fail to get the amulet away from Mordred, even running into Etrigan the Demon, who was also sent there, but Bruce is able to trick Mordred into turning himself into an adult, sending him to the adult dimension, undoing the spell, and deactivating his immortality. The episode also acknowledges a romance between Bruce and Diana, which started back in Justice League. Personally, I think the idea is fine, but the show does play with it a lot. It's brought to the forefront in This Little Piggy. A stakeout between Bruce and Diana goes awry when Wonder Woman villain Circe shows up and turns Diana into a pig. Bruce isn't familiar with magic, but he knows someone who does, Satana, making her return in this episode voiced by Jennifer Hale. While Bruce and Satana track down Circe, Pig Wonder Woman gets away from them and has to be tracked down by Bwana Beast.
Well, that's it. From Mudhole to Sty. We've looked everywhere.
Obviously we haven't, because we haven't found her yet.
Don't get snippy with me. How many other girls would go this far out of their way for a cold, insensitive...
Yo, Bats.
Circe is played in this episode by Broadway actress Rachel York, and naturally we get a musical number.
Gotta get your old tuxedo pressed. Gotta sew a button on your vest, 'cause tonight you've got to look your best. Lulu's back in town.
Circe is able to turn Diana back into a human, but in order to do so, Bruce must give up something he's concealed for so long.
Am I blue? Am I blue? Ain't these tears in my eyes telling you?
Batman singing is able to turn Diana back into a human, and with just enough time to stop her from being turned into bacon. As I said, I'm a little iffy on the romance between Bruce and Diana, but this episode does make me come around to it. And hey, it's way better than Bruce and Barbara. The Return is the next episode, and boy is it a return, because Amazo is back, once again played by Robert Picardo, and he's even way more powerful than he was previously. The League finds this out when he seemingly destroys Oa, home of the Green Lantern Corps. They assume he's coming back for Luthor, and once he finds out, he bars himself in an underground safe house. But the Atom, played by John C. McGinley, helps him craft a machine that could take down his nanotechnology. Amazo easily defeats the army of Leaguers sent to take him down and is able to find Luthor. What remains of the Green Lantern Corps shows up, and Kyle Rayner suggests to John they could use the rest of their ring's energy to possibly take down Amazo, but it could also destroy half the planet. But before they can, they're stopped by Dr. Fate, who offers a different way. Before the Lanterns showed up, the Atom shrunk Luthor so much he brought him to a subatomic universe, thinking Amazo couldn't find them there. But naturally, he does, shrinking along with them. It's here where Amazo shows his true purpose for coming back. You see, he's evolved so much that he started to question what his ultimate purpose is, so he goes to Lex to see what his purpose for still going is despite his many shortcomings. Luthor envies Amazo's immortality because he can see where everything will go while he will die.
Is that my purpose? Simply to be a witness?
We create our own purpose in life. Now go create yours.
Convinced by these words, the three return to their normal size, and Fate stops the fighting before the Lanterns do anything rash. Amazo tells them he means no more harm and moves Oa back to where it was. He had actually moved it to a different dimension instead of destroying it. With everything right again, Amazo begins to live at the Tower of Fate with Dr. Fate, his wife Inza, and their other guest, the former Hawk Girl, Shayera, once again played by Maria Canals-Barrera. Luthor is established early on as the closest thing to being a main character without being one officially. The Greatest Story Never Told is an awesome episode. The Sorcerer Mordru, one of the most dangerous people in the DC Universe, has shown up, and every Leaguer is called in to engage in a citywide battle against him. But we don't see any of that. No, this episode instead follows the only hero left on the sidelines of this battle, Booster Gold, played by Tom Everett Scott. Booster is from the future and came to the Age of Heroes with his robot companion, Skeets. He's annoyed because in this big battle, he's been reduced to crowd control when he wants the glory of saving the day. But that possible glory comes when a stray spell causes a scientist at a nearby lab to become a black hole. So Booster teams up with a scientist named Dr. Simmons to get the black hole under control. But it proves harder than it looks, with Mordru affecting things in the background. It's only after Booster loses Skeets and admits that he only came to the past to be rich and famous when he's thrust into being the hero.
Tracy, I'm a fraud. Do you know why I came back to the past? It wasn't a fight for justice. It was to get rich, be famous. I was a failure in the future, just like I am here. I'm not a superhero.
Everything is about to be destroyed forever. And where are the other superheroes? Not here. You are. You're the only one who can do this. So do it.
With this, Booster Gold is able to save the world, and nobody sees it. Instead, the glory goes to the Elongated Man, played by Jeremy Piven, who took down Mordru. The Greatest Story Never Told is an awesome episode, and would propel Booster Gold into being a much more prominent DC character. Ultimatum sees Clark, Bruce, Diana, and Arthur be overrun by a group of new heroes called the Ultimen, who are sponsored by Maxwell Lord. Keen-eyed viewers would look at the setup of the episode and the Ultimen and see they are references to characters from the Super Friends show: Samurai, Black Vulcan, Apache Chief, and San and Jaina, the Wonder Twins. The Ultimen act like they're high and mighty and they can take down the League, but the Ultimen soon discover they are manufactured heroes, given powers all funded by the government. And while this may be out there for some, remember, this isn't the first time we've seen the government make their own metahumans. Volcana in Superman, the Royal Flush Gang in Justice League. You can even say the Bang Babies are a result of this. So this is nothing new. Angered at being lied to, the Ultimen go nuts on their benefactors. The League, along with the help of the Apache Chief pastiche Long Shadow, are able to defeat them. But before they're taken into custody, they're taken away by this lady, Amanda Waller, played by CCH Pounder. She appeared throughout the episode and is shown to be the head of the company that Hamilton made Galatea at, which is now referred to as Project Cadmus. She reveals that because of their genetic structure, they don't have long before their bodies shut down and die. And while they're taken away, we get the first of many standoffs between Waller and Batman as the League refuses to give up Long Shadow.
Stand down. He's free to go with you, for however long he's got. Who are you people?
That's a national security matter. And if I were you, I wouldn't probe the situation too closely, rich boy.
Darkheart sees the League try and take down an unstoppable alien that spawns regenerative spider drones. Only the Atom is able to go into it and discover it's more of a hive. In order to make sure the alien doesn't attack a town, the League uses their watchtower, which now has a giant laser, to create a trench.
An hour until we find out if it worked.
The Atom defeats it single-handedly as the remains of what they call the Darkheart are taken by the government and this guy, General Wade Eiling, played by J.K. Simmons, who takes note of the Justice League's laser. Wake the Dead is the episode that fully reintroduces Shayera as she joins the fray when Solomon Grundy returns, and he's even way more powerful than he was previously. So much so that no one can even lay a scratch on him. Not John's lantern ring, not his new girlfriend Vixen's animal powers, and not even a Mazo can hurt him. What can hurt him is Shayera's mace. It's made of nth metal, which disables magical properties, and it's the only thing that can give Grundy the peace that he needs.
What are you saying?
Your favorite movie's Old Yeller. You know exactly what he's saying. Is this my destiny? To be a destroyer? To betray yet another friend?
It's not that simple. It never was.
Although Shayera hesitates, she goes to do the job that's necessary, and she's hurt by the experience. But there's a silver lining. She wasn't kicked off of the League back in Starcrossed. John had abstained from the initial vote, and Superman broke the tie.
I believe in second chances. I believe in redemption. But mostly, I believe in my friends.
Although she's up for taking all the criticism that will be thrown at her, she's ready to like herself again and be celebrated as a hero. The Once and Future Thing is the only two-parter of the series. A time-traveling thief named Kronos is stealing artifacts for his collection. But when he tries to take Batman's utility belt, Bruce, Diana, and John follow him through time. The first part sees them head to the Old West, where Kronos had been for a few months and whose tech has been taken by a local outlaw. The Leaguers team up with several Western DC heroes, including El Diablo, Ohaisha Smith, Batlash, and Jonah Hex. The second part takes them to the future, where Kronos rules with an iron fist and teams up with what remains of the League. Terry, Old Bruce, an older Static, and Warhawk, who's revealed to be John and Shayera's son. The events of the episode will only be remembered by Bruce and John and will greatly affect John's character for the rest of the series, especially with his relationship with Shayera. The Cat and the Canary sees Ollie team up with Dinah Drake, the Black Canary, to save her mentor, Ted Grant, the Wildcat. He's participating in a superhero fighting ring run by this chick, Roulette. Ted's only doing it because being in the League with many other young heroes makes him feel old. Ollie and Dinah try their best to make him see he's still got it and that he's going too far. Canary and Wildcat are played brilliantly by Morena Baccarin and Dennis Farina, and the ending fight between Ollie and Ted is really good too.
Why, does it look like I have a problem?
You do if you don't see what you've become here. You're entertainment for these people. The rooster in a cockfight.
Fighting is what I do, all right? It's all I was ever good at, and I'm still good at it. I'm Wildcat, the guy who fights.
The ties that bind bring Apocalypse back into the story. Remember the son of Highfather that was given to Darkseid as part of their peace treaty? This is that son, one of my favorite superheroes, Scott Free, Mr. Miracle, played by Owen Grufford. Scott performs an escape routine act with his wife Big Barda, once again played by Farrah Fork, and Oberon, played by Dick Miller. However, they seek help from the League when Oberon is taken by Granny Goodness, once again played by Ed Asner. With Darkseid dead, Granny Goodness and Apocalypse Lieutenant Vermin Wunderbar are engaged in a civil war for power of the planet. She's taken Oberon as a leverage for Scott to break Calabac out from Wunderbar's control. However, the League doesn't want to get involved and decides to stay neutral in the conflict. But Wally, bored out of his mind, decides to help Scott and Barda. I love Mr. Miracle and Barda, and this episode has a lot of great character moments and action scenes throughout.
Neither of you signed on for this.
Actually, I did. The day I married you.
Well, I'm not that committed, but I'm with you.
All right then. Into the pit.
The Doomsday Sanction is the next chapter in the Cadmus saga. The character Doomsday had appeared in a better world back in Justice League and was lobotomized by Justice Lord Superman. After that, he was taken by Cadmus and his mind restored. But he breaks free and set out on his ultimate agenda, kill Superman, who just so happens to be dealing with an erupting volcano on an island. While all this is happening, we get more stuff between Batman and Waller. She explains that Cadmus was made in case the Justice League ever went rogue, just like the Justice Lords did.
If the Justice League ever went rogue, what do you think would be the result?
That's moot.
Humor me. In every single scenario, you beat us. Badly. But that was before Cadmus. Now we have the technology to defend ourselves.
Whatever you think you're doing, if you present a threat to the world, the Justice League will take you down.
If we present a threat, you've got a spaceship floating over our heads with a laser weapon pointing down. In another dimension, 7 of you overthrew the government and assassinated the president. We're the good guys, protecting our country from a very real threat. You.
Although she is an antagonistic force, Amanda Waller is much more calculated and sympathetic than other members of Cadmus. Other members like General Eiling, who's launched a nuke to the volcano island where Doomsday and Superman are fighting and destroying what remains of it. Batman is able to successfully stop the nuke but is greatly injured, and he shares Waller's worries with Superman, that they might be too powerful and maybe need to be kept in check. Task Force X follows villain Deadshot, who narrowly avoids the chair when he's summoned by Rick Flag. Flag has been tasked by Cadmus to assemble a team of individuals to break into the Watchtower, steal a weapon, and successfully escape. The team, along with Flag and Deadshot, includes Captain Boomerang, Plastique, and the Clock King of all people. And all these villains can't escape because bombs have been placed inside their heads. The team, known as Task Force X, successfully infiltrate the Watchtower and get their weapon, the Annihilator. They just barely escape, leaving Plastique behind and succeeding in getting the Annihilator. The conclusion to this is in the next episode, The Balance, where the ghost of Felix Faust tricks Cadmus' sorcerer, Tala, into letting him possess the Annihilator. Now unstoppable, he heads to Themyscira and gets his revenge on Hades. Diana gets wind of this when several magic users are hospitalized. The balance of magic has been upset with Hades dethroned, so Diana has to fix it, but is perturbed when she figures out there's only one thing that can take down the Annihilator, Shayera's mace. Diana is still mad at her about betraying them, but the two begrudgingly team up to take Faust down. They do succeed, and Diana and Shayera grow a new respect for one another, and Diana's exile is ended. She can now return to Themyscira.
What about us? Are we good?
Like oil and vinegar. We go together, but we don't mix.
Works for me.
In Double Date, the Huntress, played by Amy Acker, looks to get her revenge on crime boss Mandragora for murdering her family. After she makes an attempt on his life, she's kicked out of the League and is desperate to kill him. She comes across the Question, who's been tasked by Batman in finding something on Cadmus and is also desperate for answers. The two decide to help each other, Huntress lying to him about having info on Cadmus. The two find Mandragora, but their efforts to get to him are thwarted by the League's bodyguards for him, Green Arrow and Black Canary. Question and Huntress make several attempts but are unsuccessful, Question even revealing that he knew she had nothing on Cadmus.
If you knew all that, then you probably know what I'm gonna do to Mandragora when I catch him. So why help me?
That is the question.
He went to convince her to make the right choice. Huntress sees that Mandragora was planning on escaping the country with his son. Not wanting to create another person like her, she lets Mandragora live, and Question also reveals that he assisted Huntress because he likes her, and the two of them become an item. The Clash is an integral part of this season. Superman is feeling a little inadequate when new recruit Captain Marvel can do all the things he can do, but better. No, not that Captain Marvel, that Captain Marvel. He was called it first, therefore he deserves to be called it. Captain Marvel is in reality Billy Batson, a kid who after saying the words Shazam becomes an adult. But he hasn't revealed that to the League, and his childlike innocence makes him very likable, but it gets him into a lot of trouble. Especially when he thinks that Lex Luthor's campaign to become president is a good thing.
Holy moly.
However, Clark, knowing Luthor and knowing what happened with the Justice Lords, isn't all too happy about it. Especially when Clark suspects that a city of free energy is actually a ploy for an evil scheme. This leads to a paranoid Clark fighting Billy, and they destroy the city. Superman is weak to magic, meaning that Captain Marvel's magic-based powers make him one of the few people on Earth who can take him down. But Clark manages to figure out his secret and stops Luthor's scheme. It's revealed there wasn't a scheme at all by Luthor. Superman fought Captain Marvel for nothing and now looks like a fool. Later, as the original Seven discuss with Marvel his status, now knowing he's a kid, he says his piece.
But my whole life I've looked up to the League. You were my heroes, every one of you. And you were more than a hero. I idolized you. I wanted to be you. Whenever I was out there facing down the bad guys, I'd think, what would Superman do? Now I know. I believe in fair play. I believe in taking people at their word and giving them the benefit of the doubt. Back home, I've come up against my share of pretty nasty bad guys, but I never had to act the way they did to win a fight. I always found another way. I guess I'm saying I like being a hero, a symbol. And that's why I'm quitting the Justice League. You don't act like heroes anymore.
Billy may be a kid, but he's not an idiot. It's a real shame Captain Marvel only appears in this episode because Jerry O'Connell does a great job in playing him. Billy leaves the League, and Clark agrees with his sentiment, but Bruce assures him that he was played. The episode ends with the reveal that Luthor is working for Cadmus. Hunter's Moon is another great Hawkgirl episode. She receives a distress call out in space and goes off with Vixen and the Vigilante to investigate. The distress call is actually a trap from what remains of the Thanagarian Empire. They lost their war and want to take their revenge on Shayera. And if that wasn't bad, she has to deal with her tension with Vixen. Not only for the fact of her betrayal, but because Vixen is dating John, who Shayera still likes. Vixen is played excellently by Gina Torres, and she appears in quite a few episodes of the series. But the standout of the episode is the Vigilante, who's played by Nathan Fillion. He's the only of the trio with no powers, and also has problems with Hawkgirl since he was imprisoned and tortured during the Thanagarian invasion. It's a great episode, to be honest. And Torres and Fillion being here is of course a reference to Firefly, which I'm all for.
Vixen, I'm embarrassed to say that I was maybe a little jealous of you. But seeing you in action here, I'm thinking John must have been talking about some other Shayera.
We're in this together. That's how it's done.
The trio manages to defeat the Thanagarians, and Vixen and Shayera manage to talk their differences out. They both like John, but they'll respectfully battle for his love from now on. The next 4 episodes make up the conclusion to the Cadmus saga, and a lot of stuff happens, so be ready. Question Authority sees the Question finally get some dirt on Cadmus, but ends up finding out everything about the Justice Lords and some realistic simulations of Luthor becoming president, killing the Flash, and Superman killing Luthor, leading to the end of the world. Scared and uncertain if this could happen, Question confronts Clark. Clark assures him that they'd never turn evil, but Question grills him on everything that's happened. The fight with Doomsday, the clash with Captain Marvel, and even Clark being hypnotized by Darkseid. Clark tries to comfort Question, but he quickly denies it. Convinced that all that happened in the Justice Lords universe will happen here, Question realizes he's got to take matters into his own hands. He's going to kill Luthor before Superman can. But Luthor beats the crap out of him, displaying superhuman strength, especially after earlier in the episode it was revealed his cancer has disappeared. Luthor also reveals to the Question that he only ran for president because, well, it'd annoy Superman, and that he's got something much bigger planned. Question is taken to Cadmus HQ to be tortured. Huntress, realizing he's missing, asks Superman for help. They infiltrate Cadmus, and Superman finally confronts Dr. Hamilton. He explains that he got involved with Cadmus when he was threatened back in the Superman finale, and that he did clone Supergirl.
That's what this is about? One little scare and you betray us? You stole Kara's DNA, violated her trust, my trust.
The chicken or the egg, Superman?
Huntress and Superman find Question, but they've got a problem in the form of Captain Atom, who was rehired by the government and sent to take down Superman. Flashpoint takes place right after Superman just barely defeats Atom and takes him and the Question back to the Watchtower. They're not sure how to approach Cadmus now, but both Clark and Kara want to barge in and take it down. But both Jean and Ollie remind them they can't because it would make them look just like the Justice Lords and just like the people Cadmus think they are. But it only gets worse. Luthor hacks into the Watchtower and activates the laser, destroying Cadmus HQ and devastating the city around it. Flash and a few others head down to help the people in the city. They're grateful, but when it's revealed the League's laser destroyed the city, the public's trust wanes. Even the president is angry. He talks with both Jean and Waller. They had evacuated that Cadmus HQ, so they're all fine, but she thinks they should attack the watchtower, assuming that the laser was retaliation for Question's kidnapping. The president tells her to stand by, but she grows impatient. She decides to send a now recovered Galatea to attack and disable the watchtower with an army of Ultimen. Panic in the Sky starts with the League trying to get the watchtower back online after the laser fire. Meanwhile, the original 7 discuss what to do next. The government's angry with them, the public's angry with them, and they've got to make sure everyone else leaves this unscathed. Therefore, the founding members place themselves into US custody, sans Batman because he suspects something is up. And that's when Galatea and the Ultimen attack. Batman confronts Waller, cluing her into the fact that someone had hacked the watchtower from Earth, and Luthor is the most likely suspect. He tells her to keep an eye on him because he's clearly planning something beyond being president. While Waller figures out if what Batman is saying is true, Galatea and her army attack what remains of the League. She eventually confronts Supergirl, looking to blow the watchtower up in their reactor room, even taking down Steel and the Atom. As Galatea proves to Supergirl she's stronger, Kara lays some hard truths.
Deep down, you know the truth. You're not a person. You're just a weapon, grown out of one of Hamilton's petri dishes. Shut up!
Now blind with rage, Galatea goes ballistic on Kara, even ignoring Waller's order to cease the fighting after finding out that Luthor did deceive them, because of course he did. The moment the watchtower is turned back on, Kara uses the power to finally take down Galatea, disabling the army of Ultimen. Batman confronts Luthor, who has created a near-perfect copy of the Amazo android. He's using the chaos to plant his mind into the android, essentially becoming immortal. And again, displays a surprising feat of superhuman strength when Batman tries to destroy it. But it's Waller who takes it down. Pissed that she's been deceived, she destroys the android and even frees the founding members. When it seems like Luthor is cornered, that's when his body starts to change.
I'd hoped to remain hidden until I could install myself into the android.
But you forced my hand.
Brainiac.
Divided We Fall takes place right where we left off. Brainiac reveals that way back in Ghost in the Machine, when he blasted Luthor, he planted a portion of his program into him. He's been slowly growing over the years, giving Luthor superhuman strength and even cured his cancer. The League fights him and seemingly defeats him, but it feels too easy, and they can't find Luthor's body. The two are actually heading towards a powerful piece of technology, the Darkheart, which was taken by Cadmus. Luthor talks Brainiac into using the tech to merge into one, and they essentially become a god. The League tries to get help, but with the watchtower still down, they're all that stands against Luthor and Brainiac. They fight and put up a good fight, but the evil duo proves to be too powerful. Only the Flash is left standing. Luthor tries to enact what his Justice Lord counterpart did to the Flash, but Wally runs away. And then he comes back. He runs all around the world, several times, hitting Luthor with more force each time, eventually going so fast that he destroys all the armor of Brainiac, leaving only Luthor. However, he goes too fast and disappears from this plane of existence.
What do you know? I did kill him. I was mistaken earlier. I think this is the part where you kill me.
I'm not the man who killed President Luthor. Right now, I wish to heaven that I were, but I'm not.
But not all hope is lost. The League is able to get a connection to Wally and bring him back. The League has won. And good thing too, Waller has just called off the nuke strike she had planned to strike just in case. In the aftermath, the founding members admit they got too big for their britches. They're disbanding the League and disabling the Watchtower. They can't be an army anymore and wish all the heroes good luck. But it's surprisingly Ollie who gives them a talking to.
You remember what we did yesterday? We saved the world, again. You don't think that has any value? Well, think again, pal. The Justice League goes on, with or without you. Look, nobody can question your service or commitment to making things better. If you're quitting because you think you've already done your fair share, fine. We'll throw you a parade. But if you're quitting because it's easier than continuing the fight, then you're not the heroes we all thought you were. The world needs the Justice League, and the Justice League needs you, Superman.
The League isn't disbanding, and Superman proposes some new changes. But the future looks bright for the League as they unite once again. And speaking of which, let's look to the future for a second. The last episode of Season 2 is Epilogue, as we go back to the world of Batman Beyond. Years after the end of the series, Terry is still Batman and goes to an old Amanda Waller for answers. You see, Bruce needed a kidney transplant, and Terry finds out his are a perfect copy. Too perfect. A quick DNA test leads Terry to figure out he is in fact Bruce's son. He imagines confronting Bruce about it, assuming it's one of his deranged plans to keep the Batman alive, and even imagines a scenario where he and Dana break up. But he goes to Waller to see if it's possible, and she reveals she was the one who planned it all out. After the Cadmus stuff, she would become the League's government liaison, and would witness Batman's effectiveness and his kindness. Especially in an instance where he would confront Ace and be kind to her instead of killing her. Believing the world needs Batman, Waller uses her connections to Cadmus to take Bruce's DNA and make a clone of it, injecting it into Terry's dad and resulting in Terry having half of Bruce's DNA. She even managed to send the Phantasm to kill Terry's parents, but refused since Batman is more than just his parents being dead. Terry hears this, but still feels that he was going to be Batman anyway since his dad was killed. But Waller assures him that he is different, and he doesn't have to push everyone away like Bruce did.
You want to have a little better life than the old man's? Take care of the people who love you. Or don't. It's your choice.
With that, Terry continues being Batman and even plans on proposing to Dana. This is the last episode to feature Terry and was meant to be the end of the series. However, Cartoon Network ordered one more season, so the show went on. And after all the stuff we just went through, the last season of Justice League Unlimited would have a lot to live up to. Yeah, it lived up to it. The season starts with the episode I Am Legion. Luthor has escaped from prison and is recruited by Gorilla Grodd into a much bigger secret society. Or at least they call it a secret society, but come on. This is supposed to be the Legion of Doom. They've got that huge dome-sized base, they refer to it as the Legion in production, and they refer to it on the wiki, so we're just gonna call them the Legion from here on out. Anyway, Luthor is goaded into joining when Grodd has a piece of Brainiac. Luthor is still reeling from being a god and wants the chance to be merged with Brainiac again. So he agrees to help out, but he and Grodd do not like each other and will continue to have problems throughout the season. The episode also sees Shayera, Wally, and Fire team up with the last of the Blackhawks when the Legion breaks into Blackhawk Island. Shadow of the Hawk follows Shayera as she is confronted by an archaeologist named Carter Hall. He tricks her into following him to Egypt and exploring an ancient temple with some Thanagarian tech, while John and Bruce figure out that Carter is Shayera's stalker. Carter believes that he and Shayera are actually reincarnated descendants of Thanagarian lovers who came to ancient Egypt, and he's been taking on the role as close as he can by becoming Hawkman. But Shayera has another problem in the form of the Shadow Thief, who tries to steal the Thanagarian tech from the tomb, with Shayera troubled over defeating the Liar, or the villain. And to add insult to injury, both Hawkman and Shadow Thief are played by James Remar. Chaos at the Earth's core introduces us to Courtney Whitmore, the Stargirl, and her stepdad, Pat Dugan, Stripe. The duo, along with John, team up with an older and wiser Supergirl when they crash land into the center of the Earth. In the center is a whole kingdom with a red sun, so Supergirl loses her powers. This is Scartaris, which is protected by the warlord Travis Morgan. The people of Scartaris summon the League here because their enemy, Deimos, has garnered new technology that is quickly defeating their forces. Technology given to them by Legion members Metallo and Silver Banshee. The core of the episode is Stargirl is trying to one-up Supergirl every chance she gets. The two get over their differences and manage to defeat Metallo, but he's deactivated before he can say who he works for. It's here where John starts to realize there's a new organization coming after them. Hey, we haven't checked in John with a while. In To Another Shore, he's encouraged by Diana to step out of the watchtower for a bit, but is apprehensive when he's the only person monitoring everyone in the League. But he gets his chance when the Legion, consisting of Heatwave, Killer Frost, Giganta, and Devil Ray, tries to steal an old ship frozen in the Arctic that may hold the immortal body of the Viking Prince. Okay, his name is Devil Ray, but he's so clearly Black Manta. But they didn't have the rights to Aquaman at the time, so he's Devil Ray now. Anyway, Jean manages to help in the battle, but when he tries to read Giganta's mind, once again, it's wiped before they can find anything. But the big crux of this episode is that Jean, with this experience, decides he's got to understand humanity more, so he takes leave of the League and starts to live a normal life. Flash and Substance sees Wally get celebrated in his home of Central City with the opening of a Flash museum. He convinces Batman and Orion into coming, and good thinking, because he's going to need the help. Flash villains Mirror Master, the Trickster, and the Captains Cold and Boomerang compete with one another to see who can take out the Flash first. But when all their efforts are thwarted, they just decide to work together and kill him. The episode's quite funny and a lot of fun. And as an extra bonus, we have Mark Hamill return. He plays the Trickster, reprising it from the time he played the character in the live-action show.
Come on, we better get over there.
What about your enemy?
Oh, right. Dude, as soon as you finish your drink, turn yourself in.
Got me again, Flash.
When the Legion raids the temple of Nanda Parbat in the episode Dead Reckoning, they steal the souls of all the monks there. The ghost hero Deadman is tasked with saving them, and he teams up with Clark, Bruce, and Diana when the Legion takes the souls to Gorilla City. You see, Grodd's big plan is he's going to use the souls to transform everyone in the world into gorillas. He's also become buddy-buddy with Tala, who's now part of the Legion. It's a total crock of a plan, and it's no wonder it fails. And I'm not the only one who believes that. Lex has had it by this point, and deposes Grodd, becoming the new leader of the Legion. Remember General Eiling from the Cadmus arc? Well, he returns in Patriot Act, still butthurt about the League raining on his parade. He takes a super soldier serum and becomes this monstrosity, planning to take on the League. And he manages to find a bunch of Leaguers at a parade. Green Arrow, Stargirl, Stripe, Vigilante, and Shining Knight, all of whom don't have powers, unlike Eiling. They can't even lay a scratch on him, and even bring in the Crimson Avenger and Ollie's former sidekick Speedy, also no powers. While Eiling devastates the area, the heroes save everyone in the area and make sure they're safe. But even then, it's not enough. Patriot Act is probably my favorite episode of Justice League Unlimited. It's a fun episode that's a tribute to the 7 Soldiers of Victory, but I particularly like what it has to say. The episode comments a lot on the nature of the superhero in modern times, talking about what it means to be a hero, a villain, an American, and the difference between the three of them.
Once, at the word of my lord King Arthur, I was ordered to lay waste to an entire village. I knew my king's heart could not be so unjust, so I spared them all.
Then you're a lousy soldier.
There it is, the creeping moral decay of the past 1,000 years.
In the end, the heroes of the episode are the people, the ones who stand up and fight for what's right. They are the ones who save the day and call out the hypocrisy in Eiling's plan. With the League now aware that Grodd has started a new secret society, they need to try and find him. And they do so in the Great Brain Robbery. Having controlled him back in Justice League, Wally still has a link to Grodd, and Dr. Fate goes through his mind to find it. At the same time, however, Luthor is going through Grodd's mind to see if he can find any more info on the piece of Brainiac he had. This causes a psychic relay to occur, switching the minds of both Flash and Luthor. Luthor is in Flash's body, and Flash is in Luthor's body. This leads to shenanigans throughout. Luthor fights through several Leaguers, including John, Fate, Mr. Terrific, Red Tornado, and several others to get by, and very quickly adapts to Wally's speed. Luthor as Wally is great because while this show was happening, Michael Rosenbaum was actually Luthor in the WB series Smallville. So his Luthor is of course great and has his own funny moments.
Lex, you're having a difficult day. If nothing else, I can at least learn the Flash's secret identity. I have no idea who this is.
But on the other end, Clancy Brown is really funny as Wally. Not only does he have to pose as Luthor, who's crafted a scheme to make money, not only does he have to deal with Dr. Polaris, who's trying to overthrow Lex any chance he gets, not only does he have to deal with Grodd, who's fully aware that he's the Flash, but he also has to deal with some very indiscreet advances from Tala.
Okay. I'm trapped in a building full of supervillains. I've lost my powers, and for some reason, this creepy hot chick thinks I'm Lex Luthor. Oh, that is just wrong.
But the end result is that their brains are switched back, and the League is now fully aware of the Legion. Hey, remember Roulette? Well, she returns in Grudge Match. This time, she's restarting her superhero fighting ring with all female heroes now. This leads to the Huntress following Black Canary when she acts weird. She's been hypnotized, and when Huntress manages to snap her out of it, they've got to free the rest of the heroes, and it progressively gets harder and harder with each one. First, it's Vixen they fight, then they gotta fight Hawkgirl, and finally they have to take on Wonder Woman. The episode is good because we get more stuff between Huntress and Canary, who have a lot of great chemistry, and just makes me wish that we had an episode based on the Birds of Prey. Remember the Legion of Superheroes from a few weeks back? Well, they return in Far From Home, but instead of them coming to the past, they bring some Leaguers to the future. John, Kara, and Ollie are abruptly brought to the 31st century by Bouncing Boy and Brainiac 5. He's a good descendant of the character. The two seek help from the League when their arch-enemies, the Fatal Five, consisting of Mono, Tharok, the Persuader, Validus, and their leader, the Emerald Empress, kidnap the other members of the Legion and hypnotize them into doing evil things. They just barely managed to beat them, but the Legion brought the Leaguers to the future knowing that only two of them would come back, and those two would be Arrow and Lantern. With Supergirl's fate seemingly sealed, the episode builds to it throughout and even sets up a relationship between Kara and Brainiac 5. And in the end, Supergirl didn't die. She decided to stay in the future, with Clark even agreeing that he's got to let her go. And thus, that puts an end to Supergirl in the DCAU. It's sad we didn't get too much with the Legion in the DCAU, but they're honestly pretty cool. But keep the Fatal Five in the back of your mind, they're gonna come up in a bit. Ancient History is the conclusion to the Hawkman stuff. The Shadow Thief kidnaps him, Hawkgirl, and John and shows them this history of their ancestors. To be honest, the flashback stuff is stupid, but Vixen does get a lot to do in this episode, and some important stuff with John does appear. He's been acting weird around Shayera this whole time because he knows of their son, Warhawk, and he tells her about him in this episode. While she takes this as a sign they're supposed to be together, John reaffirms that he's with Vixen now, and if they're supposed to be together, they should decide it together. And now we come to the final 2 episodes of the series, the first being Alive. And get ready, because a lot of stuff is about to happen. Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom, had to say it once, Luthor exhausts all his resources to get everything out of the sliver of Brainiac he has, but comes back with nothing. Finally turning to Tala to get some kind of magical energy, and she does end up finding something. The location of the Brainiac hive mind back in Twilight. Able to memorize where it was based on the stars, Luthor and the rest of the Legion change the headquarters into a ship and head off into space. This is where Tala decides that she's had enough. She breaks Grodd out of prison and together they start a coup. Several villains choose sides and fight each other. Grodd and Luthor fight, and Luthor manages to overpower Grodd and launch him into space. Dark. Luthor's side has won, and they make it to the remains of Brainiac. It's enough to reconstitute him, but Luthor needs a powerful source of energy to do it. He decides he's gonna sacrifice Tala to do it, as penance for her betrayal.
Lex, please! I beg you!
Hold that thought. Do it.
As he begins the procedure, time is stopped, and Luthor has a conversation with this guy. This is Metron. He tells Luthor that bringing back Brainiac will threaten the entire universe itself.
I'll soon be ready for anything the universe can throw at me. I'm about to become a god.
You don't know what a god is, or what you are unleashing.
Tampering with forces beyond my ken and so forth? Nice try. If you want my power, make your move. Otherwise, you can get lost.
You will regret your decision. We all will.
Ignoring his words, Luthor starts the process to bring back Brainiac. But he doesn't bring back Brainiac. Oh no. He brings back somebody much, much worse.
People, Meet your new lord and master.
Yep, Darkseid is back. And say it with me, everyone, he's even way more powerful than he was previously. The next sequence of events are as such. Darkseid destroys the Legion headquarters, heads back to Apokolips, immediately ends the civil war going on there, and declares war on Earth as revenge on Superman, going to New Genesis next. The episode ends with the League being confronted by what remains of the Legion.
We have a little problem.
The final episode, Destroyer, picks up right where Alive left off. As the League and the Legion try to discuss what happens next, Darkseid invades. Everywhere. As such, they call in everyone to come help them. Even the Legion are brought into the fold to help. All around the world, the League takes on the forces of Apokolips. Even Jean comes back for the fight. But the real fight is in Metropolis, where Superman, Batman, and Luthor take on Darkseid.
I hope you appreciate, Kal-El, that everything that happens from this point is on your head. The skies will rain fire, the oceans will boil, the streets will run red with the blood of billions. Only then, after your last pitiful hope is extinguished, will I end your life. Let's go.
Darkseid completely decimates the Daily Planet and Superman, but they don't give up, no matter how hopeless it may seem. Luthor spots Metron and talks to him again. If he knows so much about Darkseid, he should know how to beat him. Although Metron hesitates to show Luthor, he relents and brings him to the Source Wall, which holds the answer to his plight.
I warn you one final time. Only a 12th level intellect has the slightest hope of surviving what you are about to experience.
Then I'm overqualified.
Meanwhile in Metropolis, Clark and Bruce try to put even a dent into Darkseid, but to no avail. This is when Clark's had enough, and, well, I'll just let the scene speak for itself.
That man won't quit as long as he can still draw a breath. None of my teammates will. Me? I've got a different problem. I feel like I live in a world made of cardboard, always taking constant care not to break something, to break someone. Never allowing myself to lose control, even for a moment, or someone could die. But you can take it, can't you, big man? What we have here is a rare opportunity for me to cut loose and show you just how powerful I really am.
I mean, come on, how can you not think that's awesome? Superman shows what he's capable of, but even then, it's not enough to beat Darkseid. As Darkseid gets ready to kill Superman, Luthor shows up, clearly with the upper hand.
You would dare challenge me? Insanity.
Oh, I'm not here to challenge you, Darkseid. Quite the contrary. I've got something you want. The only thing you want.
The anti-life equation.
My gift to you.
As the two embrace the anti-life equation, Darkseid and Luthor disappear. With their leader defeated again, Darkseid's forces retreat. The League has won the day, but they predict that Luthor nor Darkseid are dead.
I doubt that either of them died.
We saw it this time.
You saw it last time, too.
What's the old saying? Believe half of what you see.
And none of what you hear. They'll be back.
And we'll be ready for them.
Meanwhile, it's past time that Luthor's partners in crime were locked up.
As they give the Legion a head start, they head off to protect the world from the next threat, with more heroes and more stories to come because they are Justice League Unlimited.
A head start. You're getting soft in your old age.
Don't you have a tall building to go leap?
And the adventure continues.
And that ends Justice League Unlimited. And as the bookends of the DCAU, Batman and JLU managed to be the best shows of the ones we covered. JLU is considered to be one of the best animated shows of all time and is Bruce Timm's favorite show he's worked on. This would be the last DC show Dwayne McDuffie would work on, as he sadly died in 2011. Many who worked on the show would work on many other shows after this, but this isn't necessarily the end of the DCAU. In the late 2010s, 2 animated movies based in the universe were made with most of the same people coming back, so let's quickly go over them. The first is Batman and Harley Quinn. This was released in 2017, and Harley Quinn by this point had become one of the most popular characters in the DC universe, having been portrayed by Margot Robbie in Suicide Squad. Remember that episode Harley Quinn back in Batman? That's what Batman and Harley Quinn is about, only instead of the Joker threatening people, it's Poison Ivy, who's teamed up with the Floronic Man to turn the whole world into plants. The film is honestly kinda bad. We do have Kevin Conroy as Batman again, and Lauren Lester returns as Nightwing, but Melissa Rauch is the voice of Harley Quinn, and she just doesn't fit. It really took me out of the movie. The film kinda ends in a whimper, really, anyway, where a Floronic Man drags Ivy to the swamps in Louisiana and betrays her when she grows a conscience, and there's not even a fight. But it is animated well, and there are some really good voice performances. And hey Dad, guess what?
Yes. Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing arrives for like 2 minutes and then goes back into the water, and as the only highlight of the film, that Swamp Thing finally makes his appearance in the DCAU. Thankfully, the next film is better. Remember the Fatal Five from Far From Home? Well, they're the main villains in Justice League vs. the Fatal Five. When the Emerald Empress and Validus are trapped in the 21st century, Mono, Tharok, and the Persuader travel there from the 31st century, and Legion of Superheroes member Starboy hitches a ride. Newburn, Conroy, and Eisenberg all return as Clark, Bruce, and Diana. We get the spotlight on Mr. Terrific, which I love, and we get DCAU introductions to new Leaguers in the form of Jean's niece, McGann Moore's Miss Martian, and Jessica Cruz, the newest Green Lantern, played by Diane Guerrero. Jessica Cruz is the heart of the movie, as she has to overcome her anxiety to defeat the Fatal Five. And she also helps Starboy, played by Elias Gabel, to adjust to this century. It is a pretty good film, and with it, the end of the DCAU itself. The impact of the DCAU cannot be overstated enough. It's an influential series of shows and movies that greatly impacted how many would see the heroes of DC Comics. All of the shows would be critically acclaimed or become cult classics, and is said to be the best representation of the DC universe. Several actors who played characters in the shows would voice the same characters in others. But the big ones are, of course, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. Many have said that they are both the definitive voices of Batman and the Joker. They would star together in several projects as the two, across movies, shows, and even video games. Even when Mark Hamill said he would retire from playing the Joker, he always came back as long as Kevin was Batman. I've actually had the chance to meet Kevin. It wasn't the most ideal situation, it was during COVID, but he was a great guy, and I got a cool picture signed by him. Sadly though, in 2022, Kevin Conroy would pass away. I remember where and when I was when I found out. I was here, on Veterans Day, and it was a crushing loss. To see a man who was one of the keys into bringing this world to life, it was sad to see him go. But the legacy even now still lives on, and they are giving him the flowers he deserves. Bruce Timm would produce several DC movies and shorts after the end of JLU, but largely remained out of the development scene until a few years ago. It was announced then that he would be writing and producing a new Batman series called Batman Caped Crusader. It's not connected to the universe, but it is worth watching. It's streaming on Amazon Prime and takes a new look at the Dark Knight with the same animation. I highly recommend it. We return to our normal programming next week with another movie you've probably never seen before. With Weston Media Center, I'm Joey Haskins, and I'll see you all next time.